Hello, Erika Angell. Thank you very much for accepting this interview with us. Erika Angell, you are one half of the famous duo Das Aus, amongst other things, because you have other projects too, but you are mostly famous for Das Aus, if I may say so, at least here in Montreal. And now you are getting out a brand new CD under your own name. That's the first
Mhm.
one, first
Yeah.
time under your own name. So I was wondering, um, why now a solo album, and what is the significance of this album now in your life?
Well, I think it's been in the works for a long time that it would happen, that I would do a solo album. Um, but I guess I was wondering what I wanted to say and what I wanted to do. And there was a lot of elements of me as a musician when I was living in Sweden that I haven't really found a way to express in Montreal. The more experimental side of me, uh, the more experimental sounds and free form and all those expressions. Uh, we've done a little bit of that through Das Owls too, but like the more a more pure expression of that. So when I was I guess it's first time was maybe 5, 6 years ago that I was invited to do a solo performance for someone here in Montreal. And then I decided, okay, but I'm longing for these expressions, so I'm going to devote whatever I do solistically to these expressions that I miss a lot living here. So that's how it started, and then now we just after this last record with us else, we just decided to take a little bit of a break with that project to give room for other things that we want to do too. We've been working with ourselves extensively for 15 years.
Yes.
So in that little breathing period, it made sense to make this project.
Yes. It's funny that you're mentioning the more experimental avant-garde side of yourself, because I that's exactly what I thought uh, when listening to the album. I listened to it a couple of times already,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that yes, it is. It sounds like it's more, I don't know, like more dark cinematic cyberpunk, maybe rather than chamber out in the that Das Owls is more
Yeah,
of.
for sure.
S-
That's
Yeah, so I was wondering where this where is this coming from, this longing for those sounds? Where is this coming from in your history, in your career, in your life? Before you were in Montreal, you had this in you before,
yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Montreal, I kind of slipped in on more of a like on a banana peel. It took me more to like to this indie rock scene and pop and I was very grateful for that. You know, coming here as an immigrant and you try to like make work for yourself and then it's offered in this world and it was like, sure, I'll do that because you're very much more open as an immigrant too to like just be acceptance to whatever comes your way. But at home, I had definitely, in Sweden, I had definitely carved out a path for myself away from those expressions where I was more interested in free form, like noise, like really processed non-verbal. Uh, like I had a group that was called The Moth, that was just me vocally processing my sounds to just become noise and cricket sounds and very, yeah, very experimental. And uh, that whole side of me didn't really come with here. And it's been, I mean, I'm educated in jazz. That's what I come from. I come from free improvised jazz, and then moved forward to this more to process my voice, more harsh sounds, more textures, and I think even if with us owls, even if I love to sing songs and love to like express lyrics in a passionate and touching way, there's always this undercurrent of um, a contrasting darkness maybe to it, or like a life that always has two sides, and is always very, when I compose, I always start with textures, like uh, the feeling of a sound and or
Yeah.
the touch of a sound, and
Yes.
it has to be right, and when it's right, i I can continue writing the lyrics on top of that. Or
Yeah.
so it's the texture feeling of sounds is important for me in my work. Sorry, my doorbell's ringing.
Yeah, and it shows in the album. Yeah, it's really textural. There's a lot of physical aspect to the sounds that you create, and so yeah, I felt that. There is one song in which is titled "Never Tried to Run," and
Mm-hmm.
it speaks of this longing for some part of you that was left behind in Sweden
Mm-hmm.
when you came to Montreal. So I was wondering, how would you describe your relationship with the city here? If
Mm-hmm.
it had been a friend or a lover, I don't know. What kind of relationship would it be? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
evolution of it.
Yeah, Montreal is my home. It's like where I live, and it's where I don't see myself living anywhere else right now. I mean, I when I think of my home country and my existence there, it's like 12 years ago. So even if I would move home, it would be foreign to me too.
Mm,
It's just that when you come as an immigrant, and this is something I never knew, in my own country, for all the immigrants that come to my country, that it's um, it's a huge process to integrate to a new place, and you evolve immensely, and you feel very disconnected to your own being, and there's so much cultural like cultural content that you just take for granted when you're in your place that you don't even know exist. And
yeah,
when you're in a different place, you realize, like, oh my God, I'm so misunderstood because people don't read the same things that they would read at home. And when I meet a Swede on the street, someone I never met, I immediately know that they're Swedish, and I immediately feel in contact with them for reasons that are just like at home I wouldn't have never
yeah,
felt, you know. So it's just a process, and it can be quite painful, but
yeah,
there's tons of beautiful things coming with it too.
yeah,
And Montreal started out as an adventure and then grew to be a challenge and then my home.
yeah.
And there's so much, I have two legs now. I have one in Sweden and one here, and a twice as big music community.
Yeah, that's true. Um, and artistically speaking, is that is this album making you finally come full circle with what you were missing before, and then okay, I now know what I was missing, and I'm going for it here in Montreal,
Hmm.
and so now it is, the circle is complete, or how would you describe it?
I mean, it's hard to know. It feels like jinxing something saying that, but
Yeah,
I do feel that I've come to terms with it all. I feel
yeah,
like I have created an acceptance and a knowledge, and um, yeah, like just I can see what happened and how it happened, and I'm good with that today. And it was. And a lot of it, I think, strangely enough, has to do maybe also with the fact that I became a citizen, and that, yeah, the judge, she said thank you to all of us for choosing this country.
yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
And it was like, I realized that's the first time, someone says, thank you for coming to us. And that was huge for me.
Um,
And I
it's
didn't
good.
realize that I needed that, but I did.
I'm glad because I often say it to artists who are from immigrant origins who come to live here and choose us. I always say that. I often say that myself, and I think yeah, that's the way we should say it. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
choosing us. I mean, you could have gone anywhere else. The album is called The Obsession with Her Voice.
Mm-hmm.
So you're obsessed with your own voice, is that it, or where does that come from?
Well, originally that comes from a poem where it was like, that you fall in love with other voices. And that, but it was just one line out of a lot of poetry. Like when I write poetry for a record, it's like it's all over the place, and then it kind of finds its place in the music, and it can be, you know, switched around or moved around. And this little phrase was, I don't think it's actually on the record now, but I liked it since a lot of what I do is just processing my voice in different ways and creating sounds with my voice. Even if there's sometimes keys and synths, it's mainly my voice that are doing all of the sounds. So it felt, and I like to. It's my instrument, and it's just me. So that's the root of all of the compositions and the of my expression. And yeah, so it felt like the right title.
Um,
It's how I process my whole life, through my voice, through my music. So, and everything that you experience is also heard in your voice. If you're tired, if you're getting older, like all of that.
um, the timing of this album, uh, I will state an hypothesis, but um, you have been with Dust Owls. You have created a wonderful corpus of works, of albums, and they have, in my point of view, and I think it's the same point of view from many, many critics around the musical planet, that it has gotten better and better with each new album. And then the
Mm-hmm.
latest one, Who Would Hold You If the Sky Betrayed Us, has been called a masterpiece. I don't want to put some pressure on you, but it's been
Yeah.
called a masterpiece. I've seen it, and I think yeah, it is a masterpiece. And it's a wonderful album. Perfect. Is that in some way, somehow, one of the reasons that you decided that's the time to go solo? Because where else can we go?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a pressure coming from the fact that you've been recognized, the Dust Owls musical corpus has been recognized as a very great one, and the latest opus is called a masterpiece. Is this a pressure that we cannot go anywhere else, or we need time, to absorb that and to think of the next direction? And in that time, well, let's do something that I wanted to do and I needed to do on my own. Could that be it? I mean, is that psychology 101 too much?
I don't know. I'm thinking, that those things maybe in life, sometimes we think that we have more control over things than we do, and that we decide for things. But I also tend to feel that life takes twists and turns that surprises you sometimes. You don't always decide where you're going, and there's offers and there's things that appear, and you said yes and no, or yes and no, and I feel that this window, it kind of just happened.
Yeah.
And maybe it's for exactly those reasons that you're saying. Maybe, I mean, I definitely did feel that I that it was time to like own my own voice with my own self and do that with myself, like to give myself that space. to do that. And yeah, I don't know if it's brought to me or if I made it happen.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you think there's somewhere else to go with dust owls? Is it
Definitely.
okay?
Mm.
So we're not
I
over
mean, I
yet.
wouldn't worry about that.
All right.
It would, you know, it like all of those records, like the goal both Simon and I have had with them is that the next one has to be different from the one before, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's never an end to how you can create. That's the beauty of it.
Glad to hear that.
Hmm.
You're doing a an album launch on
Hmm.
March the 12th
Yes.
at Ausgang Plaza.
Hmm.
So that's gonna be ours is gonna be who's gonna be there? The
It's
full
gonna be,
band on stage or what? How is it
yeah,
gonna
it's gonna
sound?
be epic, I think.
Yeah, all right.
It's with Millie, the drummer, Millie Hong, who's on
Yeah,
the record.
she's wonderful, and she comes also from the jazz, from
Yeah,
improv.
definitely.
Yeah,
She's fantastic. And then there's for the record, there's a string trio.
yeah,
And so it's cello, and viola that are playing the string parts that are on the record. And it's going to be a little bit more improvised too, because that's how a lot of those songs were created in the studio. So it's, yeah, it's there's going to be, you know, in between parts too that aren't heard on the record. Then Maxime Corbeil-Perrin, that has done the visuals for my last single, Up My Sleeve, is has done visuals for the show. So there's that Ausgang. That's why we're there, because the whole wall is
yeah. Okay, so there's gonna be some visuals with that.
yeah.
Right.
And also Arnaud Belliferis is a fantastic light engineer, is going to do the light.
Yes,
It's going to be fun.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Um, you have in the album somewhere. Well, I don't remember if it's about one song or it's in the press press release, but you say that alone at dusk, atop a hill, staring down at the landscape around her parents' farm, tangled woods, darkening houses, and from somewhere deep inside her, she found a voice. That's a very strong memory.
Hmm.
And tell me about that memory, about its significance for you.
Yeah, I always come back to that. I think the reason that I remember it strongly is because the moment right after, when I come in the house at home, my parents' house, it's filmed on Super 8.
Ah,
So I've always seen that when I come back in, which has made me always remember what happened
okay.
just before. But like already when I was very little, I was allowed to roam around the nature around our house and in the woods a lot on my own. And I had spent that, it was like a dusk sunset on the mountain just next to my, where I was just singing pretend English or pretend language in like just bursting my heart out on this mountain towards, you know, the whole sky and the woods, just losing yourself to exactly how it feels when you find flow in music. And that flow has always existed since then, you know, that's the flow you try to get to when you compose, when you perform, when you're in the zone and you just abandon yourself to the moment
Yeah,
and let whatever happen. And I remember how extremely happy I
yeah,
was from that at that moment, and how proud and light and, you know, real I felt from that moment, like very, very alive, even as a 3 or 4 year old coming in. And that is very like pure and simple experience that comes from like early childhood, but it's something that I think is essential for life always throughout. And it's
yes.
these moments that we need to find in in any kind of activity or conversation or cooking food or
Yeah,
performing or creating.
I understand perfectly. We all have those kinds of moments, I think. I have some, and I know what you
Yeah.
mean. And we all strive to, you know, go back into them and to fill ourselves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with that. So maybe there's a bit of that in that album. One last thought about it, about the obsession with her voice. Um, is there um, some kind of narrative that you have conceived in the sequencing of the songs, or is there something behind the construction of it that we
Mm-hmm.
should be aware of and to delve into it with more knowledge or depth?
No, I think, like I said also in the press release, like that composing to me is very much, or and performing and singing is very much like a work of diary, I guess, that you're you reflect, like you process your life through your art, through your music, and trying to find those moments of essence in it. And in the process of doing that, I feel if I start composing, it can be weeks where I feel like I do create bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. And you feel like you did nothing at the end of the day. And then a couple of weeks when you look back, you magically created a bunch of songs without knowing. It's just there all of a sudden. It's like, as if I don't have an, I'm not really aware that that's happened. And those moments feel like those almost meditative moments where you just are very focused, so you lose perspective on a lot of things. You're just very present. And also with for that, how the record is built or constructed, it's like the same feeling that when I try to find that texture in a sound, it's the same feeling putting songs in an order. It's just like has to be in a certain way, and all of
Mm,
a sudden it feels right. And I don't know how much of that is actively thought of or
mm.
just happens subconsciously, or and I like that to be a mystery.
Yeah,
It would be, it's beautiful that it is, because it surprises yourself, myself, in the process, that oh, it became like this. I didn't know that.
it's a kind of window into your subconscious, maybe, and it's
Yeah.
good for us. It's we listening to it. Well, people will listen to it starting on March the 8th.
Yeah.
It will be out
Mm-hmm.
on Constellation Records. I have to
Mm-hmm.
specify. Great label from
Mm-hmm.
here. And on March 12th, again, the launch, the official launch of the CD, of the album, rather, at House Gang Plaza. Everyone is invited, of course, and I guess there'll be many people, I think so. I will be there, and looking forward to it. Thank you very, very much, Erika,
Thank you
and so nice meeting you. And you know, kudos on this wonderful album.
so
Um,
much.
I think that it will get great reviews. I think so. It's really personal and really
Oh,
inventive.
beautiful. Thanks so much.
Thank you
Have
very
a nice
much.
day.
Bye bye.
Bye.